The only thing this tells us is about the phenomenon of Christianity, that they used to meet and sing a hymn at daybreak.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it tells us.
Welcome to TaNaCh Talk. I'm your host, William Hall, broadcasting live out of Kingsland, Texas, USA, with another episode of TNT, the Twisted New Testament, or Judaism and Christianity, a contrast, or the real reason why Jews will not accept Jesus or don't believe in Jesus, with our dear, sweet Rabbi Federow.
Yeah. Hi.
Good to see you. All right. You get your books handy. I always like to have them up there.
No, yeah. Okay. So
yeah,
I
so
got this one.
Judaism and Christianity, a contrast in 3 languages. Good. And then the other one?
Yes. And the newest one.
Yep, there you go.
The real reasons why Jews don't believe in Jesus.
Yeah, good stuff right there.
Right. So, and if things go well, maybe in the next month, I'm hoping, once again, that they'll be in Dutch and in Hebrew.
Oh, nice.
That this one will be in Dutch and in Hebrew.
Oh, nice. So you have 5 different languages. That's awesome.
Yep.
Okay, very good. So today's title is going to be basically proof Jesus existed outside the Bible. So
right.
that's
outside the New Testament.
Outside the New Testament. There you go. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So where do you want to start?
Well, we usually start with Josephus.
Okay.
And you have the text up on the screen?
Okay, so Testimony of Flavian by Josephus, 8037. To C, you mean CE or what?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all, that's the point. None of them lived at the time Jesus was alive. How would they know them?
That's hilarious.
So mentioning Jesus's existence isn't proof of his existence.
Yeah.
It's merely going by what Christianity believes, even if they themselves were not Christian.
Yeah. That's wild. So about this time, there lived Jesus, a wise man, if that's so funny, if indeed one ought call him a man. Is that how they even spoke back then?
Nobody speaks like that.
Okay.
This is what I call Christian piety. When all of a sudden a Christian starts speaking, so out of faith and strength of belief as opposed to historical fact. Remember, Josephus was a historian. He wrote histories.
Right, that's true.
So for him all of a sudden to start talking religious,
yeah,
very weird.
Or start talking news, right? What's happening in the moment.
Right.
Right.
Let me do it, okay?
Okay. The 1611, you can barely understand it. You can.
Right.
You can get through it. This is from 91. I think this one's from 91.
Yeah, it's AD. Supposed to be, yes.
And they speak like we speak now, sort of, which doesn't make sense either. So especially being from that range.
Well, it's a translation of the Greek.
Okay, gotcha. That helps.
Right.
When was it translated?
Probably in the last 50 to 100 years.
Okay, that helps. That makes me understand better. Okay, good.
Right.
All right, go ahead.
All right. About this time there lived Jesus, a wise man, if indeed one ought to call him a man. For he was one who performed miracles and was a teacher of such people as accept the truth gladly. He won over many Jews and many of the Greeks. He was the Messiah. And when, upon the accusation of the principal men among us, Pilate had condemned him to a cross, those who had first come to love him did not cease. He appeared to them, spending a 3rd day restored to life, for the prophets of God had foretold these things and 1,000 other marvels about him. And the community of the Christians, so called after him, has still to this day not disappeared. So that's how the text reads. But, as we just...
The weird...
As we just said, the piety of this, if you can even call him a man.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it just drips with... And a historian is going to give the facts as they are told it. They're going to give the fact. They're going to report on the phenomenon of Christianity.
Not how people feel.
And right. Not how people, and not how he himself feels, because he's writing this is him writing.
Right.
So there was found I think it was a letter, also in Greek, from give or take the same time period. And if you take this paragraph and get rid of all the Christian piety Okay. At this time there lived Jesus, a wise man, for he was one who performed miracles, was a teacher of such people. He won over many Jews and many of the Greeks, and went upon the accusation of the principal men among us. Pilate condemned him to the cross. Those who had first come to love him did not cease. Okay. In other words, if you get rid of all the piety, all the statements of faith,
right.
Okay, basically that paragraph, whatever's left when you get rid of the piety, was found written in like a letter or something. So most likely it was circulating at the time of Josephus when he wrote this. So it goes back to 91, as you said. And basically he took that, whoever took that, added in the piety, and then inserted it in the text of Josephus to make it look like Josephus wrote this.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
That's
okay.
Interesting.
So this first one with its dripping piety, any scholar will tell you that Josephus didn't write this.
Yeah.
But if you take a look at another section in the same book called Jewish Antiquities, the first one called Testimonium Flavianum, okay, was Antiquities 18.63-64.
Do I have that?
This
because I have Antiquities 20-200.
Right. Okay. Yes. Well, the early one is called Testimonium Flavianum.
Okay.
The next one, also found in the same book that Josephus wrote, doesn't sound at all like this. If you can even call him a man.
Right.
Okay. It's just straight facts. And the second one, which is Antiquities 2200, okay, most scholars believe actually came from Josephus.
Okay.
So having such a character and rash and daring in the context, I'm not sure what that means. Ananus thought that with Festus dead and Albinus still on the way, he would have the proper opportunity. Convening the judges of the Sanhedrin, he brought before them the brother of Jesus, who was called the Christ, whose name was James, and certain others. He accused them of having transgressed the law and delivered them up to be stoned. But those of the city residents who were deemed the most fair-minded and who were strict in observing the law were offended at this. Accordingly, they secretly contacted the king, who was Herod Agrippa II, urging him to order Ananus to desist from any more such actions, for he had not been justified in what he had already done. Some of them even went to meet Albinus, who was on his way from Alexandria, and informed him that Ananus had no authority to convene the Sanhedrin without his consent. Convinced by these words, Albinus wrote in anger to Ananus, threatening him with punishment, and King Agrippa, because of this, deposed him from the high priesthood in which he had ruled for 3 months. What does this say? It mentions Jesus, but it claims he was called the Christ. It's talking about supposedly his brother, and it's talking about how the high priest at that day, the Jewish high priest, the high priest of the temple, plotted against the earliest form of Christianity, the earliest Christians, in other words, the followers of Jesus. Mm-hmm. In both of these paragraphs, okay, at the top, everyone knows that Josephus was born in the year 37. He could not have known Jesus. Everybody says Jesus was dead at 33.
Right.
So he wasn't even born 4 years after Jesus was dead.
Yeah. He
wrote this, according to what we know, about 9 years before Josephus himself died. He is not making a statement. Well, I was walking along once in Jerusalem and I heard this guy named Jesus preaching.
He's retelling stories he heard from other people.
Exactly. Yeah. He's retelling the story. He is reporting on the phenomenon of Christianity.
Right.
He is not making a claim that Christianity is true. He's not saying he himself believes in this Jesus. He's not saying, I'm an eyewitness to this. He's merely reporting the history of what happened. And he's in what people think is really from Josephus. He's talking about basically somebody going outside of their purview, outside of their power, and trying to get at these early Christians. And then the other Jews, not necessarily Christians themselves, by the way, okay, those who deemed the most fair-minded and who were strict in observing the law were upset at this going outside his power. And, reported him to higher power and had him stopped. That's all this is saying.
Yeah, right.
So it's not an eyewitness to the existence of a man named Jesus. Okay. And now you have something even later. Okay. The next paragraph is Pliny the Younger. These are the 4 most commonly referred to historical references to a historical Jesus. And in every time, they're all historians and they're all reporting on the history like we just said. They are not eyewitnesses.
Right.
So concurrent to the time Jesus was living, there are no outside sources that refer to Jesus. They're only historians who are reporting on the existence of a Christian community and giving their history of their existence.
Right.
Okay. So Pliny the Younger was born in 61, died in 113, circa 113, roughly 113. He was the Roman governor of Bithynia, which is an area that he was not even sure where that is. He wrote to the emperor, who at the time was Trajan, asking how to deal with the Christians that he himself was persecuting. Okay, that Trajan was persecuting. And he wrote the following. This is Book 10, Letter 96. Others whose names were given me by an informer first said that they were Christians and afterwards denied it, declaring that they had been, but were so no longer, some of them having recanted many years before, and more than one so long as 20 years back. They all worship your image. Remember, he's writing to the emperor, so he's saying they now worship the image of the emperor, no longer as Christians, and the statues of the deities, and curse the name of Christ. But they declared that the sum of their guilt or their error only amounted to this, that on a stated day they had been accustomed to meet before daybreak and to recite a hymn among themselves to Christ, as though he were a god, and that so far from binding themselves by oath to commit any crime, their oath was to abstain from theft, robbery, adultery, and from breach of faith, and not to deny trust money placed in their keeping when called upon to deliver it. Again, when young Pliny the Younger is reporting on this, he's reporting on an incident that happened with ex-Christians who had been a follower of apparently Jesus, whom they called the Christ, okay, the anointed one. But he himself, Pliny the Younger, is not an eyewitness. He didn't even live when Jesus was living.
I think it's great that it says in here that they turned and then cursed the name of Christ.
Right. They recanted it.
Yeah. Which means even back, and that's something you never hear of. You never, ever, I don't think I've even mentioned it in any shows at all, because you don't really hear of it. Usually Bible followers, way back in Bible days, they died Jesus followers. They died Jesus followers. To see this right here and seeing it gives you the impression of a multitude. I guess they found out the truth and said, the heck with that.
And William, just in the effort of being even-handed or honest or whatever, it is possible that since they're talking to the Romans, that they hid their belief system and they're denying it. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
What happens to a Christian who denies Jesus?
He will be rejected according to what Jesus' own words were.
Exactly.
He said, "Those who deny me before men, I will deny you before my Father in heaven."
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
All right.
You go. Good point. Good point. Bye-bye.
The only thing this tells us is about the phenomenon of Christianity, that they used to meet and sing a hymn at daybreak. That's all it tells us.
Yep.
It's reporting on the phenomenon of Christianity back then. It is not an eyewitness. It's not telling anything about history, about Jesus himself.
Right.
Okay?
It's like recollections of an old church.
Right.
Interesting.
All right. Now, the next one is Suetonius. Suetonius was born in 69 and died after 122. He was a Roman historian. He wrote the lives of the Caesars. Caesars is how we pronounce it in English. De Vita Caesarum, Lives of the Caesars. In his description of the emperor called Claudius, who was probably emperor from 41 to 54, Suetonius explained the reasons for the emperor's decision to expel the Jews from Rome, an event also recorded in Acts chapter 18, verse 2. And this is all Suetonius said. Since the Jews constantly made disturbances at the instigation of Chrestus, he expelled them from Rome. So, Book of Acts, written after Jesus was dead, when it says at the instigation of Chrestus, okay, there's a slight possibility. It's talking about Jesus as insurrectionist, as rebel against Rome,
like an Essene.
Okay, but most likely, if this is recorded also in the Book of Acts, most likely this is talking about a disturbance made by Christians, the followers of this Christus or Christ. Mm-hmm. Okay, and who did it get expelled? It got the Jews expelled. Mm-hmm. So again, he's writing, born in 69, so 36 years after Jesus was dead, and he's reporting on the phenomenon of Christianity. He's not saying, as I just said about Josephus, well, I was walking along and I heard this guy preaching, his name was Jesus, and he had a really good act.
Yeah.
Okay, he's not saying that. Okay. And finally, you have Tacitus. Okay, Tacitus also was born well after Jesus was dead and buried. So it says Tacitus lived from 56 to 120. He was a Roman historian. In his annals, okay, that's the name of his histories, Tacitus writes about suspicions that Nero was responsible for the great fire of Rome and how Nero tried to deflect the blame. This is common.
Yeah.
I mean, most people who know about Nero fiddling while Rome burned and how he tried to blame the Christians, but probably he himself was the instigator of the fire. So Tacitus writes, consequently, to get rid of the report, Nero fastened the guilt and inflicted the most exquisite tortures on a class hated for their abominations called Christians by the populace. Christus, from whom the name Christians had its origin, suffered the extreme penalty during the reign of Tiberius at the hands of one of our procurators, Pontius Pilatus, and a most mischievous superstition, thus checked for the moment, again broke out not only in Judea, the first source of the evil, but even in Rome, where all things hideous and shameful from every part of the world find their center and become popular. Sounds like Southern California. Sorry, I couldn't resist. So again, they'll cite Tacitus. Oh, Tacitus certifies the existence of Jesus, writes him. He's reporting on Christianity.
Yeah.
And he's reporting on the phenomenon that Christians were seen as obnoxious, okay, as followers of a mischievous superstition. Okay, in other words, Tacitus is not writing as a believer. He's reporting on the existence of Christianity. Again, not an eyewitness, not, hey, I heard this great sermon in the synagogue today by this guy named Jesus. So these are 1, 2, 3, 4, the 4 most often cited by Christians supposed histories of the existence of Jesus to show that Jesus was real and he was really the Messiah and he's, all that stuff. So Josephus, Pliny the Younger, Suetonius, and Tacitus.
Which one was the first one we did? What was the 91 written in
Josephus.
91? That was Josephus? No, I think it was a different one. The one
Josephus had 2.
Okay, so the one that I saw that was written in 91,
right, where they're reading out of the great big thick book, but he's reading it as if it's fact.
Yeah, right.
How can you call him a man?
Yeah,
does not sound like fact.
Right. Yeah,
sounds like religious fervor.
Yeah.
It's like you get on Facebook when people are saying, "Oh, but he really was the Messiah, and he will come again." All this piety.
Yeah, right.
Religious piety.
That's really interesting stuff, no doubt. And the things that, like I said, the other 3 things that was written didn't really offer anything on behalf of Christianity at all, like you said. So
no, it's
anything positive anyway. Yeah.
I'm sorry, say it again.
That's anything positive anyway.
Right. It's reporting on the phenomenon of Christianity. I could report on the phenomenon of the Southern Baptist Church right now. That doesn't mean that I am testifying to the existence of what they believe in.
Yeah, validify. I can't
Right.
talk. I can't talk today. Validifying anything at all.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Interesting.
So when people start telling you about the historical documents, now you
Yeah.
can say, I think I've gone over them. I've read them in translation, but still, and they're not reporting on the existence of Jesus. They're reporting on the phenomenon of Christianity that believed in Jesus.
Yeah. I'm still in awe of all the different areas of the New Testament where the texts have been altered or erased or added, like last 12 verses in Mark or whatever was added by the
Right,
church.
yes, beginning with verse
But
9 and following to the end.
but the New Testament is supposed to be erroneous and inspired by the Holy Spirit, every single word they say, and then you find all the contradictions, and they say, well, maybe it's not. So the internet really helped so many people come out of Christianity,
Oh, absolutely.
but it's also making New Testament scholars work overtime and figuring out how to resolve the problems they're finding.
Right.
So
Because to maintain their belief, they have
yeah,
to have resolutions to them.
right, yeah,
If you take a look at any manuscript of the TaNaCh, okay, and one that
TaNaCh
includes,
meaning what Christians call the Old Testament. Go ahead.
yes. So if you take a look at if they have critical remarks, what are called critical remarks, where they're saying in this manuscript it's this way, and in that manuscript it's that way, okay, and they're at the bottom, and they'll have a little like one or two or A or B, and then you look
Yeah.
down and you see,
Footnotes, right?
okay, you're going to find places in the Tanakh where these, you know, the critics will say had variations in manuscripts, but the variations are like, instead of saying someone, they'll say the word somebody.
Oh yeah,
So
right.
in English, it'll be that kind of a
I
mistake.
see.
It's not exactly the same word,
Yeah.
but it's the same word. Okay. If you take a look at the uh, scholarly critical edition of a New Testament, this manuscript says this manuscript says that, and it is wild. It's absolutely wild. And the differences are not like somebody and someone. It's like, you know, from Jerusalem, he went to Paris. And the other one will say, from Jerusalem, he went to Berlin. It's not the same at all. Okay. I mean, that's not a good example, obviously, but it's very, 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 very different in the critical remarks you'll see in the critical editions.
Right.
Yeah. So, and the manuscripts upon manuscripts upon manuscripts in the New Testament that vary, and you take a look at the Dead Sea Scrolls, which really are the oldest versions of the Tanakh, of the books of the Bible that we have, and how they're incredibly the same of what we have today.
That font, yeah.
Especially the Torah, which had a religious ritual on writing a Torah scroll. It's a religious ritual that you had to follow meticulously.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, it would create the same text of the Torah no matter where you go in the world.
Right.
You
And
don't have that in the New Testament.
And the Psalm 22 text that they found, that they said that what they found at the Dead Sea Scrolls was not. It was actually found, like, I don't know how far, but away. It wasn't at. It was at the Alef Bet cave, not the Qumran
right.
cave, and it was written in a sloppy font. They said it was so like it was like.
William, what they don't tell you, the word is karu.
Yeah.
Okay, and the u on the end has a vav, which is
Right.
like this. Okay, but if you take a look at other words on the same page, every yud is spelled like this, not like this.
Oh wow.
It's like every other yud has the same problem.
That's
so
wild.
it was the guy's font.
Yeah. Wow.
When he wrote a yud, that's how he wrote a yud.
Yeah. Right.
But they pick up on the u on the end, the vav on the end. They say, see?
Yeah. Right. Right.
But take a careful look at the other letters on the page.
There was something about that too that pointed to saying her hand, not his hands.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that.
Is that the same verse, or I'm thinking about something else?
We could be thinking about another verse, but I'm not sure.
Okay, got it. I'll have to look that up and see.
Right.
Cool. If I remember, I'll put a little footnote down at the bottom here. I know I got a copy of it in Rabbi Singer's books.
Right.
So,
yeah.
very good. Okay, cool. Well, I think we kind of wrapped this one up. Sounds good. Well, guys, Rabbi, thank you for your time. Thank you all for tuning in.
Always.
As usual, be sure to hit that like button. Share these videos with your friends and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Turn on all notifications so you don't miss anything. And buy Rabbi's books. He's
and also the Hebrew Jumpstart.
He is
Judaism and Christianity, a contrast.
Yep.
Okay. And you got my newest one, The Real Reasons Why Jews Don't Believe in Jesus.
Beautiful. Yep. And like you said, of course, Hebrew Jumpstart. There we go.
You want to learn how to read Hebrew in 1 hour? Yeah. It's on YouTube. It's free and open to the world. You can watch it 1 billion times if you want, because it's on YouTube.
Yep.
It was put together by William. It's an animation.
Oh.
And
yeah, that's it right there.
You can go to HebrewJumpstart.com. You can download the handouts, which include 6 pages that can be made into flashcards if you photocopy them onto hard cardstock, is my suggestion.
Make a pit stop.
Yep, sorry.
And if you'd like, there's also a workbook to help you read out loud that gives you access to me reading every word in the workbook to check to see how you're doing with your pronunciation. But the workbook's not necessary. It's just a nice thing to have.
Right. I'm just kind of playing a little bit of it here just so people can get a teaser if they haven't seen it. I would like to. This is kind of what I won't play the audio. I guess I could play the audio because they can hear it too. Let me just turn it up. Let's do a little snippet of it.
Okay.
Here we go. 1 second. Let me scoot on out here. Just to let that go. Here we go.
Okay. This has the sound of, okay. Right here, there is a hole. It has the sound of, this is a vowel. The vowel would go underneath it right here. This plus this would be ha.
That is a brilliant video, I gotta say.
See the letter?
You've gotten a lot of compliments on it.
Has the sound of
yeah.
2.5 years it's been out. It's got around 1,040,000 views.
Wow, that's great.
It's amazing.
But so when we say animation, we don't mean funny people running around in cartoons. This is animation meaning moving text so that you can actually follow it really well.
It's animation, yes.
Yeah.
You animated it, William. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to see this one spot right here. Hang on.
A. This would be hey. Notice this one here looks kind of like a circle. It has the sound of s, so that this plus this would be sa.
I love it.
This plus this would be sa.
Beautiful. All right. Well, Rabbi, thank you again for your time. It's been amazing. And
anytime. I enjoyed doing these with you, William.
Right on. Very nice. I do too. Very much. Okay, y'all have a great weekend. We'll catch you later. Shalom, everybody. If you enjoy this channel and the content, and it has changed your life, or perhaps the life of a loved one or a close friend, would you please consider supporting this work? You can click this link and it'll take you directly to my website with a donate button. Or there's a Patreon link and a mailing address for snail mail if you would prefer. If you do donate, please do me a favor and leave me a phone number where I can contact you and thank you properly. I hope you all have a wonderful 2025. Shalom.